Okay, this one is from the AITA subreddit, and it is, am I the astronaut for telling people not to eat the food at my sister's wedding? Uh-oh. My husband, 27 male, and I, 26 female, were married 8 months ago. We had a big wedding with lots of food and drinks and people. I knew we would likely have leftovers, so had arranged for them to be donated to the soup kitchen we sometimes work with. However, my mom went behind my back and took most of it with her. I didn't really know what happened to the food until now. My sister Callie, 30 female, got married over the long weekend. She didn't want to mess with any of the planning, and knowing how my mom was during my wedding, decided to let our mom take over the whole thing. All we had to do was show up where we were told and party. The ceremony was beautiful, but it was when the buffet was revealed that I noticed something odd. Like the food looked eerily familiar, like identical to what I had from my wedding except for a little more dried out and sad. I found an opening and went to ask my mom about it, where she happily told me she saved a fortune by unfreezing the food from my wedding to serve to the guests now. I was horrified and immediately voiced my concerns about safety. She got upset and I said I was acting like a snob and should be happy the food wasn't going to waste. I argued that it was never going to be wasted, but she wouldn't hear that. I didn't want to make a scene, but was worried about people getting sick, so snuck off to see my sister. She was horribly embarrassed. Mentioned that mom said something about saving money, but didn't question it because she didn't want to foot the bill like I had. She told me not to eat the food and thanked me for the warning. From there, my husband and I discreetly started telling some guests to be wary of the food, and the rest of the night was fine. My mom caught some flack for being cheap, but I've also been catching heat. Some of our relatives have been saying that I intentionally made my family look bad and that the food was fine as it was frozen and then defrosted for the wedding. They said no one would have known if I didn't make a stink over it. I don't know if I did anything wrong. I could use some help and would like to know if I should apologize. Am I the astronaut? Edit, I'm getting a lot of repeat questions, so I figured I'd post here. My wedding had about 200 guests. My husband has a large family, and we intentionally planned for more people to come and knew that a lot wouldn't for one reason or another. So we knew we'd likely have leftovers and wanted to be smart about it. My sister and her husband have been together for about 10 years. They recently decided to get married for tax reasons and wanted to do a courthouse wedding, but my mom begged her to let her do an event. So she had a small wedding with only about 50 people. My sister hates planning and people, so she let my mom do everything. Have y'all ever heard of garage freezers? They're super common where I'm from. Okay, apparently a lot of people were asking, like, how in the hell did they manage to save and store all of this? But, okay, depending on what kind of food it is, once it's served, it was probably, heated up. And then if you take food that has been heated up and refreeze it and then warm it up again, that's not great, right? I'm no expert in how food would be contained here. You know who is? Tony Spark? Is it okay? Tony Sparks says it's disgusting. So assuming that you had a bunch of warmers that food was put in, is there any kind of food that this would be okay to do it with? How long was in between the two?
8 months.
There were 8 months between the two?
Yeah, and it sat out on a buffet all day.
8 months? That's too long. That's too long. Okay. I mean, I guess it's as simple as asking, like, would you be comfortable feeding your wedding guest leftovers from 8 months ago?
We ain't have nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
What about them? They're fresh. No, would not be okay with that. Would not be okay with that at all. No. You know what the funny part here is? That mom hid it from everyone. She wanted to do this. She begged OP's sister to let her manage this event, and hid where the food was coming from or what was being used here. Hid it from everyone, intentionally, because she knew it was a sus move. She knew. Saved a fortune, yes. Until all of the medical bills start hitting you because of all the people with food poisoning. Now we're sending their bills to you. And then it won't be saving a fortune anymore. It will just be a bad choice. So OP's question here was, am I the astronaut for telling people not to eat the food at my sister's wedding? No, I think this was handled the way that they handled it discreetly. They didn't make this big announcement. They didn't talk shit on mom for doing it. They just said, hey, you might want to stay away from some of this food. It's from 8 months ago. They did it discreetly. I feel like they handled it well and they did the right thing here. Mom was pissed, of course. It's not like they were just trying to hoard it all for themselves. They were just trying to help people out and do the right thing here and do it in a very delicate way. So mom being pissed off about it is whatever. Where is mom in this story for serving the food in the first place and then for getting pissed about it? Trying to save some bucks, I get. But taking leftovers, freezing them for 8 months, and then bringing them back out, I don't get. I mean, I wouldn't even think of this as an option because I wouldn't want to serve wedding guests leftovers in the first place. You have plenty of options for cheaper food options that aren't 8-month-old leftovers. She diverted it from a shelter to save some bucks and then served it to wedding guests. Yeah, we're going for it, Mama. Here you go. For your meal here at this event, we'll be serving you ascon 1. It's an asshole that's gone bad. It's turnt. You probably shouldn't eat it, but you have to because you're on ascon 1. That's all there is. If you want to survive, you have to eat rotten asshole. It's turnt. Diverting it from people who could have actually used it, holding on to it 8 months, and then serving it to wedding guests to try to save a buck. Ill-advised.